Hi, friends. Good afternoon. This is Sunil Chandy, and this is Food for Thought, and we are live today. And we're not having a recording. Yes, this is me live and in person. And I want to thank you all for being with us. Natalie, you're here. Natalie Gordon is here. I'm going to turn this off. And Natalie's here with us. And I think if you're here with us, please say hello. I just would love to know who I'm speaking with. Well, thank you, Natalie, it's good to be back. I took a week off of vacation. I feel really refreshed. Natalie, God bless you. Ben, oh my God, you see the bookshelf. You see the bookshelf. Yes, my wife and I were thinking about what to do to enhance this bookshelf because Sharon Younkin, you'll see in just a few moments, she has a really nice setting in the background. And I said, Sim, we got to get this game up a little bit. And so actually it's Simi who encouraged it. But I have pictures there. I have books there. It actually makes me think maybe that that I read something, which is good. Well, anyway, thank you, for Ben, for noticing that. And I hope that people will continue. Marcia, thank you for being with us. And I hope everything is good and hope you're doing well. Again, say hello, everyone who's watching. It's a beautiful day. This week, this past week, I took some time just to rest, and I thank you for forbearance for watching the Food for Thought in between. We tried to put in some Food for Thought episodes that were very meaningful to us and were very popular, so that you could view them again. Because again, this show is really about helping us to find some insight as we continue our walk through life, and this COVID-19 challenge is just one challenge in this life that's enormous, filled with challenges, but also filled with beauty and great joy. And so what we want to do is this show, or this program, is actually helping us to deal with our challenges. So if we face this challenge well, we're going to also be able to face any other challenge in the future. That's my hope and prayer. And I hope that this show provides insight that allows you to find a way to deal with the challenges of life. Jan, thank you for being with us. Hello, it's good to see you. I love your smiley face. It looks like a sun. Yes, there it is. There you are. Hope you're doing well. And I did want to shout out. I did want to shout out, as they say, or say hello to three people that have been really just amazing people. All of you are amazing, but of course, these three I just really want to say thank you to. I had dinner the other day. We were socially distanced, of course. Dinner the other day with three of my favorite people in our parish: Natalie Pukas, Cheryl Young, and Beth Walrath. They are active members of our altar guild, and we just wanted to hang together. And I thought, okay, it'd be good to just be together. And they called, but towards the end of the evening, as we were finishing dinner and everything, they came out and they gave me gifts. I couldn't believe this. I didn't expect it. They gave me these, and it almost made me cry. It was just wonderful. I didn't expect it. They gave me this cup, this wonderful cup. It says, yeah, you can see it. I just wanted to be an ordinary parish priest, with the little coffee in the bottom there. I'm sorry, ordinary parish priest. And they noticed that during my Food for Thought times, that I always said that all I wanted ever since ordination was just to be the best priest I could be, not I always thought I had grand ideas to affect change in the world. But if I could but all these ideas are just ideas, and sometimes they get me overwhelmed. And so I always say to myself, I just want to be the best priest I could be, the best priest I could be. And so they got me this cup, and I just wanted to be an ordinary parish priest. And this is true. I mean, I just want to be the best person I could be. And and I know that in the midst of this challenge, we're doing things. I'm doing things that I've never imagined that I would be doing, and I know that you are too. We're both all doing things that we've never imagined that we could be doing, and addressing these challenges in ways that are different. And so the other thing they get, and one of the things that I never imagined I'd be doing would be a show, a, a talk show, basically, just to talk to my parishioners. It's a way to connect to you guys, but it's also a way to, it's something that I never imagined in seminary that I'd be doing. And so one of the things, I kept saying this over and over, and one of the things that they gave me was this thing. Can you see that? It's this little, Beth's daughter, or niece, works, and I'm trying to get her on the show as well. She used to work for Modern Family. She was a producer of Modern Family, and hopefully she'll be coming on. But they thought that this would be something really good to have, for me to have. And so today, food for thought, COVID series rollout. The scene is mind. We're going to talk about mindfulness today. And of course, we're going to have Sharon Younkin, who is our therapist in residence in the church. And of course, our cameraman and producer and director actually is Ben. So I'm just the guy who's talking all the time. But this is really good. And I want to thank Natalie and Beth and Cheryl for thinking of me. They always think of me. I mean, they think of us because they're the altars. They're on the altar guild. They're our directresses, and they prepare the altar of God for us, for all of us, even when we're not there. They are thinking about us and praying for us, and I'm very grateful to God that we have people like Natalie, Cheryl, and Beth who think about us. Anyway, just say hello. I know that Sharon is here. Angela Tafone is here. Michael is also here watching. And so we want to thank you all for watching with us. Be sure to share this. Share this with the world because, insight can't be kept to yourself. Wisdom cannot be kept hidden away. It's like love. It must be displayed. It must be put out to the world so that we could make the world filled with light, the light of wisdom, insight, and love. I did want to give you a couple of housekeeping things as well, and that is that for those of you who might have received emails, just be careful when you're receiving emails from anyone, and especially, and I'll tell you, from me, don't. If there's a lot of scams out there, and some people get because we're now active in many ways that we weren't before. They're active as before. People get to know us. So if there's an email that asks for money, don't respond to it. Don't especially if it comes from me, and and asking you to give a gift to gift cards, or asking you to do something extraordinary, and please don't do that. Delete the email. If you find anything that might be suspicious, call the office, call our parish administrator, Jackie. She'll walk you through and she'll let you know what's true, what's not. But just, there are people who prey upon other people. So I'm going to be reinforcing this message over and over. If you get an email from me that says, please give me money or something, delete it, and then call the office and tell us where, ask them what the story is, and hopefully we'll get some clarification. I just don't want anyone to fall prey to anything that might hurt them in any way. Anyway, thank you again for being with us. And so today we have Sharon Younkin with us, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about mindfulness. and the wise mind. And so, Ben, please bring Sharon on board.
Hi, Father Sunil. How are you?
Sharon.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see
you. I'm so glad you had some time off to rejuvenate and rest, and it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. I worked out. I went to ride my bike. I spent a little bit more time with my kids, you know, and then I also did a lot of doctor's appointments. Just make sure, you know.
Yes. Now's a good time to do that too.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's very good.
Yeah.
So talk to us today. Give us wisdom.
Yes. So you and I talked a little bit about this whole idea of mindfulness, and I shared with you that normally this is something that I teach early on. In this case, with the shows, we've been talking about topics as they've been sort of current, what's been going on at that point in the country, and sort of trying to match the pace of what we've been going through. But I do think it's time to talk about mindfulness, because mindfulness is something that runs. Oh, there's Sarah, my roommate from Chicago. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
So being mindful, I'm being aware in the moment of seeing Sarah's name. But mindfulness runs through, you know, it's something that we can't really do anything skillfully unless we're mindful. I guess that's how I would say it. Any coping skill I teach you, if you do not do it mindfully, will not be effective. So that's why it's so important. And what do I mean by mindful? What I mean is to be aware of your internal and external experiences in the moment, aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and also aware of what's going on in your environment in the current moment without judging it. So that's tough. So there's a lot going on there, you know. You have to be aware and also be practicing what's called a non-judgmental stance. From a psychological perspective, in the field, we like to think of the fact that folks who tend to overly focus on the past struggle with depression.
Yeah.
Folks who overly focus on the future struggle with anxiety. Folks who stay present in the moment as much as they can emotionally are going to essentially be the healthiest typically. Now, that doesn't mean we don't deal with the past. The past has to be dealt with. There has to be healing sometimes that we have to do around the past. But healing is not ruminating and thinking about the negative events over and over again. Healing is working with a therapist, making sense of what happened, taking lessons from the past and incorporating it into the present and moving forward. I also like to say that it doesn't really make sense to think a lot about the future unless you're planning or problem solving. People will be worrying and they think they're planning, but just having what if thoughts, what if this happens, what if that happens, that's not planning. That's just catastrophizing and thinking of worst case scenarios. So the goal ultimately is to try to be present in the moment and participate fully in the moment. And if you're thinking about the future, to be making a plan or to be problem solving. So, yeah. And now I know, so how do we go about doing that? How, that might be a question I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, how do we go about doing that?
How do we go about doing that? Yes. And so, well, typically what I have folks do is I have them start off practicing. It's a practice, first of all. Now, I started learning about mindfulness maybe close to 20 years ago. So I've been practicing in small ways how to be mindful. But we start off by having folks practice with something typically that's external, like observing an object, something that's more concrete. Because the goal eventually is to be able to also experience your inner experiences without judgment. People have a lot of judgment about feelings. Feelings are bad. I can't handle this. I can't. So this non-judgmental stance ideally is going to translate to your inner world as well. But it's easier to start with sometimes externally describing an external object. Also, I would say that folks who tend to be, some folks are overly focused on their external world, and some are overly focused on their internal world. And so if you're somebody who's stuck in your head and you need to get into your life, your goal, your work is going to be more aware of your external world. And somebody who's very externalized and doesn't like to think about their thought, like the key into their thoughts or their feelings, their work is going to be to kind of be a little bit more internal. So should we practice a quick mindfulness exercise?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know you have that mug, right? So one way you can do it, but one mindfully, it's you could even make this a practice of every day when you're drinking your coffee or your tea, to spend maybe 5 minutes just drinking your coffee or your tea mindfully. And so what that means is when we can practice mindfulness by keying into our 5 senses. So what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, what you feel. And you want to describe it objectively, like you're a scientist seeing it for the first time with no subjective wording. So you wouldn't use words like, I hate this, the taste of this, I love the taste of this. You would describe it objectively. What does it taste like? What's the temperature? What do you see? Like if I look at my mug, so it's pink and it says on the front, keep calm and call mom. And, and the color, I have green tea in here. So it's kind of a clearish kind of color. And when I take a sip, I would observe and describe. It kind of has a little bit of a sour taste to it. It's slightly sweet as well. The mug is lukewarm. I could describe the dimensions of the mug, how many inches high, how many inches in diameter. All of these things, I'm describing it very objectively to make sure that I don't have any judgments while I'm experiencing this. So that's a very simple way to practice mindfulness. You can do it, and it's when we do this, it's also a great form of distress tolerance. So doing the dishes, practicing being mindful when you're doing the dishes. What does the water feel like? What's the temperature? What does the soap smell like? It's a great way of taking judgments out of our experience, and it can calm us. When I've taught skills over the years, we'll say things like, take a mindful walk. And when you take a mindful walk, you just describe the colors, the sounds. You wouldn't say, oh boy, the neighbor's grass is too high, they need to cut it. That's a judgment. You would describe, oh, the grass is, 2 feet high, but there's no judgment. It's not good. It's not bad. You describe the colors of the flowers that you see. I've had people say, I took a mindful walk and it didn't work. And then I'll talk with them and I find out the whole time they were worrying.
So that's the key, right? And so the mindfulness activity, the tool that you're teaching us draws us from thinking about the future and in the past, but locks us into the present to look at what's right in front of us.
Yes.
Experience it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's so beautiful. I mean, because I tend to be the type of guy who ruminates over my mistakes, and just thinks about it over and over again. But if or the guy who kind of plans for the future. I mean, I remember in high school, I used to plan for my retirement. And then I told my advisor once, I'm getting really tired because I'm thinking already of retirement, But just staying in the moment and experiencing what's right in front of you.
I can remember the first time I learned this concept. I just had an epiphany where I realized that my whole life I had either been in the past or the future. Yeah. And it was kind of an overwhelming moment. I realized, wow, because you're kind of missing out in life if you're not experiencing, because you're not connecting to people the way you could be. You're not participating fully in the moment. And I think when people start to learn this skill and they start to really participate fully in the moment, the future takes care of itself. I mean, there's a Buddhist saying that's something like, focus on I think the minutes and the years will take care of themselves. When you are, because if you're participating fully in the present in a mindful way, then you're going to make better decisions. You're going to be better connected to people. You're going to bring more emotionally. It just, initially, you may have some cleaning up to do, because if you haven't been mindful and you've been neglecting kind of facing things, it can be a little bit painful. It doesn't mean pain-free. So initially there may be some work to straighten things out. But once you get into that groove of living in a mindful way, it's Marshall Linehan likes to say it's the difference. It's like walking through your living room with the lights turned on and you can see the furniture and where to walk, versus sort of stumbling through the lights turned off.
About 25 years ago, I read this book by Thich Nhat Hanh. It's called "Living Buddha, Living Christ." And Thich Nhat Hanh was nominated for the Nobel Prize. He was.
It's my daughter. I'm sorry, I have to say hi to my daughter. Hi, Callan.
Okay. It was. There was one phrase, and I actually had the opportunity in 2012 to go and stay at Plum Village in the south of France. I had a grant that was given to me, and study with Thich Nhat Hanh and that group in Plum Village. It was beautiful. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of mindfulness, meditation, prayer, really experiencing the here and the now. And I remember one. So he does a lot of calligraphy, and I have several of his pieces here. And he had one that says, "The kingdom is now. The kingdom is now." Mm. And it comes from his reading of the New Testament of Jesus, when Jesus is going out to, after his baptism, going into the wilderness and coming back into society, and he's telling people, explaining to people that it's not that the kingdom is something we work toward, but it's also here and now in the moment. And it's how we experience the moment that helps us to live with joy. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty powerful. I mean, I just love the idea about mindfulness, and because I tell you, I tend to be a kind of guy who lives either in the past or in the future. Mm. And the thing about it is that when we only have the present, we only have those moments to relish, to enjoy, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reformed that way too, where that was always my tendency too. And I've changed that. I really have. It's a lifestyle change, and it's been so much healthier for me. And so it makes a big difference. And I think one of the overarching goals of some of the work that I do with folks is to be able to think, act, and feel from what we call a wise mind place. Mm. And you and I had spoken a little bit about what that means. So
explain it to us a little bit more.
Yeah. So I know, because this is it sounds like it's a simple idea, but it's kind of abstract, and it's hard for people to really sort of understand this exactly. So there are some tools and some ways to think about it that can make it a little bit more concrete. But one way, what we'd like to say is we can all be in different states of mind. And we're seeing a lot of that right now with all of the current events that are going on. We see, and so the three different states of mind that we talk about, there's reasonable mind, there's emotion mind, and then if you think of it like a Venn diagram where the two intersect, there's wise mind. And ultimately, we want to be, I want to teach folks to act with intention, not to just react impulsively. Yes. Because when we just react impulsively, especially if we're not used to being mindful, we may be acting from emotion mind. Emotion mind is when we are taking action from a very emotion-driven place. Our actions are being driven by our emotions without sort of checking them. Reasonable mind is when our actions are being driven by pure logic, and that can be problematic as well, because we have to, in order to make effective decisions, we have to be connected to our logic, as well as to our emotion, and sort of see where they intersect. And so that wise mind place, I guess it would be similar to when people do centering prayers or contemplative prayer, where they really center and focus and they come to sort of a wise mind place, and they know there's a deep knowing about what is the going to be an effective, balanced decision. So the goal again is to learn. So with mindfulness, you need to be aware, because you need to be mindful in order to take a step back and observe your thoughts and describe your thoughts. So if you're feeling very strongly about something and very distressed, the first thing I recommend for folks, especially if their distress is like a 7 or above out of 10, is to take a step back and try to sort of calm themselves before saying or doing anything involving someone else. Maybe do some breathing, splash some cold water on your face, and then think about, what are your thoughts right now? What are your feelings? You can even think of it, what are my reasonable mind thoughts, my emotion mind thoughts, and then what would be an integration of the two to reach sort of a wise mind place. And people are probably thinking, wow, this sounds like a lot of work. How can I do all of that and respond to something within seconds? And I would say to you, well, most of the things in life we do not have to respond to in seconds. The only thing we have to respond to in seconds are life or death situations. That's what the fight or flight response, which is the quick, impulsive thinking and acting, which we tend to use in many situations, that's meant for life or death.
Yeah.
That's meant, I have to get out of the way. The car is sort of out of control. It's going to hit me. I've got to jump out of the way. That's when you don't think. But other than that, you can always take a step back and make a comment later, or introduce a conversation with someone later. You don't have to address it right in that moment. If you're feeling really activated and you're going to behave in a really impulsive way, take a step back, decide, look at your thoughts. What does the evidence say? That's the reasonable mind. What are the strong emotions saying? What's sort of where the two come together? And then try to act from that middle place.
Well, and we've learned some of this stuff even from our parents sometimes. When we've been taught from when we were young about to count to 10 when you're angry, before you react, or when you're writing an email, recently 10, 15 years ago, when you're writing an email and you're in a strong emotion, write it out and then don't send it. Put it away and then come back to it later. Take a pause, take a step, and I think this is such an important, valuable lesson, and for us, particularly in this moment in our history, because there's so many people. We're cooped up in our houses. There's a lot of frustration sometimes, and when we see things on the TV or hear things on our social media or news, and everything wants to excite us and anger us and move us to react.
Totally. I myself have to, even though I have some training with this, there are certain topics where I can immediately feel the blood pressure start to go up.
Right.
And I can feel that fight or flight response. And, I want to sort of say something quickly and I have to hold back and I have to think there have been times when I've maybe been more impulsive than I've wanted to be. I mean, there are some things that it's hard not to feel strongly about the different things we have going on right now. And
I think that what you're saying with the wise mind is that you can still feel strongly about things.
Yes.
But taking a step back to see what is the wise step to take forward.
Yes, it's not about not having strong emotion, but making sure that the strong emotion is not totally driving your decisions unchecked.
Yeah.
Because someone could still feel intense grief or intense sadness. However, they're still weighing what is the evidence, the logic, reasonable mind say and they're acting, they can still have a lot of grief or a lot of emotion and still act from a wise mind place.
You know what's so beautiful? What you're just telling me. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful insight. But the one thing that's interesting to me right now, or is this idea that your emotions aren't bad. They're not.
Yeah.
The emotions that you are feeling, whether it be anger, frustration, they're not. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they're what you're feeling. And so the idea about being non-judgmental about them is just accepting that you're feeling this.
Right.
And then when you're thinking about it, kind of processing why you're feeling this way.
You're right.
You know?
Exactly. Being aware, when we're aware of. So I'm glad you're raising that point. This is something related to emotion regulation that we often we talk about in my work. You know, emotions serve a function. We're not going to get rid of emotion. We have the fight or flight response. That's what has helped us to survive.
Yeah.
So every emotion, believe it or not, depression, grief, they all serve a function that these emotions have helped us to survive. However, we have to also be careful because our emotions, people will often, I used to say this all the time, I always trust my gut. Well, our gut can be biased by past experiences. You know, if this never, happened, but if I'll use this example, but let's say if as a child I had been, bitten, attacked by a dog or something, and someone brings their sweet little puppy into the office. Now my gut would say, run, you're in danger. But because,
Sharon, what are you doing? He's a Chihuahua.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, it's Chihuahua. This is what people do. They don't question their emotion. I feel this way, so it must be, and they're still feeling tremendous fear. But if you do not have awareness as to why past experiences, biases, and how it might bias your current, present emotional response, then you're going to react based on events that are not currently happening. So that's part of mindfulness too. When we have an emotion, one of the things we want to do is first check the facts. Does this emotion fit the facts? Is it effective or justified for me to have this feeling? If it is, then you go to problem solving because the emotions are a guide. They're telling us you need to do something. If it's not, then we do something that's called opposite action, where, the puppy's not dangerous. I need to do the opposite of my terror. I need to pet the puppy. I need to not run out of the room. I need to overcome my fear,
Yeah.
So that's an example. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's almost time that we're finishing with this, but you always give us so much insight, Sharon. Thank you so much for this. I know that we've been also talking a little bit about contemplative meditation, and one of the things that we have many gifts at our church, and one gift is Eric Larson. Father Eric has been trained in contemplative meditation, and so we're probably going to try and do a workshop, and this meditation is again a way to kind of access that wise mind, access that mindfulness sense from a Christian perspective, but it really it's universal. It's a universal thing. And so we'll be rolling out this project in a couple of weeks after our other, workshop that we're doing. But I just want to thank you for this. And I can't wait till 2 weeks from now when you come back with something more insight to give us.
Yes. And this topic in and of itself, we could talk a lot about. I think this is going to be one I'm going to be referring back to. Is for us to remind ourselves, are we acting, thinking, and feeling from a wise mind place or an emotion mind place? Yeah, I think that's going to be key for us to also be able to engage in conversation with each other and have deep listening, like we've been talking about as well. So we're sort of weaving these things together, and this is another piece of the puzzle.
Sharon, thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, Father Sunil.
Okay. Beautiful. Again, another wonderful session. I hope that it's been insightful to you. It's been insightful to me, and hopefully we'll be able to use some of these things that we have been learning through these sessions, and also learning about ourselves as we deal with this challenge of COVID-19. Because, as I said at the very beginning, folks, life is filled with challenges, both challenges and joyful moments too. COVID-19 is just one challenge, but as we come through it, we learn something about ourselves, how strong we are, how we're able to meet the challenges before us, and how we can still thrive and find joy. My joy is that I'm here with you. It's through a laptop screen, but I'm still with you, and I also know that God is present with us. And so we end our session with our prayer that we normally say, "The Lord be with you." Let us pray. Jesus Christ, you traveled through towns and villages, curing every disease and illness. At your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health through quality medical care. Heal us from our fears, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Be present with those in authority who are making hard decisions. Support the medical professionals, emergency responders, teachers and students, counselors and caregivers. We ask this all in your name, Jesus. Amen. Join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, go into the world in peace. Use your wise mind and spread the light of Christ, the light of joy, the light of love. The world needs it right now.